but that would have been a much better lead. Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, the crime numbers for 2020 are in, and they are not looking good in several areas across the Commonwealth. And with live music, carnival rides, and food, another festival is underway, this one in Leslie County. We'll talk to officials about the safety measures they're taking for visitors.
Warm weather is in the forecast as we close out the work week. I'll have the latest on that and some looming shower chances coming up right now at 5:30.
Dedicated to Southern and Eastern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. Hyden officials have kicked off the annual Merry Breckenridge Festival today. WYMT's Chas Jenkins tells us how this year's event is being handled with COVID-19.
Expecting a huge turnout from the community, with the event being canceled last year due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Crowds have been elevated all year long everywhere we went, even in the latter part, which we had some concerns about because of COVID. But people continue to come out.
With festival officials doing whatever they can to keep the event safe.
We test all employees daily, before and after work. Keep a close eye on everybody's health. We sanitize and clean the rides regularly, more than we ever have before.
We're going to have sanitizer on just about every table out there, ask people to wear masks. A lot of, and ask the children to wear masks on the floats.
And despite the increase in cases, city officials believe festivals will happen regardless.
It is a very scary thing, but I think people pretty much, want to enjoy themselves now, more than ever, basically, from all the calls and things I've been getting.
And economically, carnival ride companies have not been affected, seeing a consistent run throughout the season.
Make sure they're comfortable with us coming instead of just imposing our will on them. This community, like every other we've been a part of this year, has said, come on into town. We're ready for you. We want you here. We want to bring the people together.
Honoring the county's history as safely as possible. In Hyden, Chas Jenkins, WYMT Mountain News.
The Merry Breckenridge Festival runs through Saturday. A fire in Frankfort killed 2 people this morning. The Frankfort fire chief said someone walking by an apartment complex before 8:30 heard a fire alarm and called 911. Hours later, crews are still cleaning up the damage and investigating what happened. The fire chief says a fire this size is unusual for Frankfort. He confirmed 2 people were killed. 3 to 5 more had minor injuries, and another was flown to U of L's burn center. Officials say it could be days before they determine what sparked the fire. We talked to a woman who has a friend who lives there, and she watched as people escaped the flames.
The smoke was coming out as she went to jump out. She said she walked down the stairs and the flames were too bad, so she went back up and jumped out. And then 2 older women, they packed down a ladder out the window.
The American Red Cross is helping fire victims with housing and supplies. An undercover narcotics investigation led police to a large drug bust in Wayne County yesterday. Police say they found more than $150,000 worth of meth, heroin, and fentanyl combined. Deputies say they were investigating a possible drug sale on East Kentucky 90. Police stopped a car they say was suspected in trafficking. Deputies arrested Troy Huff. He faces several counts of drug trafficking.
A few clouds have filtered into the region this evening, but for the most part, we're looking A-OK out there with blue skies and comfortable temperatures. Out there on the Mountain Parkway at Slade this evening, already seeing some of those clouds, or I should say, there we go, some of those shadows getting a little longer as the sun begins to set out there. We're sitting still at 79 here in Buffalo Mountain in Perry County. Just, again, a few of those high clouds working in. Temperatures for the most part low 80s as we head down into the Cumberland Valley. We're in the upper 70s for many places like Hazard and Harlan. Still mid 70s as we head out to the Big Sandy. Again, a couple of areas of clouds working through, but those shouldn't have too much of an impact on our forecast, at least in terms of temperatures heading through tonight. Keep that WYMT weather app handy though, because we will be seeing those temperatures dropping into the 60s by the time we head to bed tonight and into the mid 50s by the time we wake up wake up in the morning. If you missed out on the last few days, don't worry. You still got a couple of chances to enjoy the nice weather before a few changes work into the forecast. I'll have those details coming up in just a bit. Steve?
All right, Evan, thank you. Kentucky State Police have released a crime rate report covering the Commonwealth. It paints a picture of addiction and just how much of an impact the pandemic has made on a crisis gripping our region. Victor Puente talked with experts about the data.
The 2020 crime statistics released by Kentucky State Police are similar to the national trends we saw earlier this week from the FBI. While overall crime dropped in the Commonwealth, the number of murders rose last year by more than 58%. There were 405 in 2019. That number jumped to 640 in 2020. Drug offenses made up more than 1 in 5 arrests in Kentucky, the most of any crime. A criminologist at the University of Kentucky told me the pandemic just exacerbated a problem the state was already struggling with.
Kentucky is hit especially hard by some of the drug epidemics that are going on now, and being stressed out because of that pandemic, the whole pandemic, is not going to make drug use lower.
People who work in addiction recovery say it's likely that many crimes that aren't considered drug crimes, like property thefts and robberies, still have addiction as an underlying cause.
And you'll see statistics anywhere from 70 to 80% of individuals incarcerated are believed to have an underlying substance use disorder or something of that nature that contributed to their crime.
Overall, the number of people arrested dropped during the pandemic. Around 293,000 were arrested in 2020, compared to more than 432,000 in 2019. Dr. Love said the reasons for that could include a shortage of police and a changing attitude toward certain drugs.
The more and more we as a community tolerate drug use or think that certain drugs should be legal, the less likely people will be to report those offenses.
Going forward, experts say the best way to keep some people from going back to prison is getting them help for the reason they went in the first place.
Drug courts and diversion programs are critical to the well-being of Kentuckians, highly successful in many areas, and it's a wonderful motive to have someone in treatment.
In Lexington, Victor Puente, WKYT.
Along with homicides, arson and bribery arrests also went up from 2019 to 2020. A new Vincent van Gogh themed mural is being created behind City Hall in Hyden. Inspired by her love for the famous painter, Mayor Carol Joseph commissioned local artist Derek Lewis to create the piece. Using inspiration from Van Gogh's most famous work, The Starry Night, Joseph says she hopes the area will be used more by the community.
I already had one school group from another county, when I put just a snippet of it on Facebook, said they'd like to bring their class up here to look at it. So I expect to have visitors, and will there always be welcome? We're a welcoming place here.
Joseph says the city plans to have a grand opening for the mural when it's complete. Some new changes are underway for the Derby downtown gaming facility in Louisville. Here's what it's going to look like. Very flashy, very upscale, and very much like a casino. There will be 500 slot-like machines where people can wager on the outcome of historical horse races. This could make Louisville more competitive with casinos across the river. Churchill Downs and Corporation officials are also using the project to build a bridge to West Louisville. CDI will be recruiting workers from the West End and contracting with women and minority-owned businesses to provide services.
We will pilot a partnership with One West that will help us recruit and hire talent from Louisville's West End and identify ways that we can maximize their professional development. This is going to be about careers and not just jobs.
To top things off, CDI officials also pledged $1 million to the West End Opportunity Partnership. That group was set up to finance economic development projects in West Louisville neighborhoods. Boo at the Zoo is a decades-long tradition. The Louisville Zoo continues to host families from around the city for a night of wall-to-wall and cage-to-cage fun. Last year, the zoo was an outlet for families that had been stuck in the house as most of the city shut down. Zoo workers are excited for another year of fun.
Bring your camera, because there's going to be a photo op around every corner with your favorite Storybook characters. Bring your trick-or-treat bag, of course, for trick-or-treating 11 and under. We do encourage you to wear your mask, but again, there's lots of social distancing options here at the zoo.
Boo at the Zoo runs until October 30th on Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Tickets are available on the zoo's website, or you can find a link on our website at WYMT.com. The FDA is considering approval of half doses of Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine as a booster shot to beef up protection against the virus, especially as flu season approaches. Meanwhile, as people start making holiday travel plans, the pilot union is warning that staff shortages could impact family vacations when the federal vaccine mandate takes effect. A Central Kentucky man is used to putting himself in harm's way to help others. Now he's in need of help himself. Michael Underwood works as a volunteer firefighter in Midway and is a full-time firefighter at Toyota in Georgetown. But since mid-September, he's been in a fight for his life with COVID. The 27-year-old had trouble breathing and eventually ended up on a ventilator and with a tube in his lungs. He's since made improvements, but his friend Chris Gardner says he's got a long way to go.
The only thing that went through my mind is, am I going to lose him? And it would be a pretty hard hit for me because we've been friends, really close friends. But again, through prayer and everybody talking together, he's coming through it. He's a fighter.
Gardner says all the money raised through a GoFundMe will go towards various medical bills and expenses incurred because of his battle with COVID. Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, phoning in prescription drug therapy. How a pocket-sized solution can break addiction even when users cannot find a signal.
And showers are in the forecast for part of the weekend. I'll have the latest breakdown coming up.